Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Callifolio Pacifique. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I did the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Levenger True Writer with a broad nib. I used it to write for a day and then to take my notes for this video. I used 3 papers to standardize in some of my writing samples: Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples that'll come later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a nice peppering of darker letters throughout with 8 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, about the same tone as this stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, although the extra fine gives us some. How about Tomoe River? Well, no bleeding and normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 20 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we don't get any. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a nice peppering of color throughout. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. There are moments of shading, like look at the end of the F into the O, look at the sweep in that Y, look at the O from over. There's moments, just not a lot. 12 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine left to right shows us some color variation, the medium shows us none, but there are hints of it with the medium, and we do get a nice peppering in the extra fine. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see at the bottom it looks kind of grayish and pushes up. But what we start to see is a very light minty green before we get to that blue. Now the one on the right that I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, that grayish kind of line at the bottom is about the same. The minty green is a little easier to see as it's pushing its way up, which makes me say that that gray is more a byproduct of that green. And then we get the same blue at the top. Now it makes me really say that any chance of hold on goes away as a result of that blue. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I wouldn't use this in a note-taking situation. You're losing 2 out of 4 letters here. The top of the lowercase h gets blurry and the capital H is blown out. Don't use it in a note-taking situation if you want to be able to go back and highlight. Now, water is completely lifting this off the page. On the very upper right section, you start to see the white of the paper coming through. Water's all it took me to get it out of my pen. Water's all it should take you. However, if for some reason you needed to use pen flush, you can see that pen flush is completely reactivating and removing this from the paper. Now it didn't everywhere that the flush was, but you easily see a large patch of white where the pen flush was, and it was only there for 30 seconds. 1/3 bleach solution completely obliterates it off the page, but it also slightly discolors the page. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Now I'm going to link a video where I show how I test it and how I calculate the data. Callifolio Pacifique has a viscosity of 2.2, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples. Now for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Callifolio Pacifique has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it a fast dry ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Callifolio Pacifique, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice brown, and I chose Robert Oster's Dark Chocolate. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, Levenger, and Strathmore writing paper. So here we're looking at the yellow Rhodia paper, not to look at performance changes, but really to see what happens with that yellow backdrop to this very blue ink. And we do see that you get a very slight turn to turquoise. Very slight turn. But look at the difference between the extra fine on the white and the yellow. It looks like a totally different color. It's nothing bad. It just means it's a very translucent pigment in this ink, and it also means it's something to be aware of if you work in a professional environment that uses yellow paper and is worried about the color of your ink. Levenger paper has no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, but it does offer a very nice peppering of shading throughout with 4 seconds to dry. Nice fast time. Medium is darker than the extra fine, same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both are showing no color variation. Extra fine is showing some actually, but we do get the color variation in the extra fine, not in the medium of the writing. And last up, Strathmore calligraphy paper. With no bleeding, no ghosting. I don't worry about that spot where I'm putting a scrubby on because I'm putting it on stupid thick. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 5 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation. On camera, I see color variation of the extra fine, although the writing, neither of them had it. And that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Callifolio Pacifique? Its tone is a perfect match for the waters in Hawaii. It is absolutely great. The name matches this ink perfectly. It performs very well behaved. It's pleasant to read on the page, and I enjoyed using it. So what nib and pen really give the best writing experience with this ink? There's a lot of color variation that you can get from this depending on the pen that you choose, and it is a little turquoise leaning, but I found that a medium flow fine really gave me the color that I enjoyed the most. If you've enjoyed this video and made it this far, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and tell me why. Thanks for watching.